Welcome to the house, the one they talking about. Word of mouth, the boxing playhouse, without a doubt. All the latest and greatest boxing news, that's what it's all about.
What's up, guys? We have a special edition of Boxing Playhouse tonight. I'm your host, Sakura A. And tonight I have some guests with me that are investing their time and really showing that they are interested in the public good of people and their purses. And also those that have also kind of been put in a situation where they have also been a victim of someone taking advantage of their good-heartedness, and the effects that it has on someone. What the fallout is when people come into your life and they're dishonest and they take advantage of you as a person and your trust in nature. How that affects you as an individual. And the fact that it's also happening to our boxing community makes it something that I feel I have to let everyone know about. I'm very close to a friend of mine now, and we've become very close over the years. And I'm very happy for our friendship. Her name is Lisa McClellan. She is the owner of the Brotherhood, and she is the Ring of Brotherhoods. I'm sorry, I should say it like that. She has teamed up with an amazing United Kingdom author, writer, and now I'm going to add investigative reporting because we found out that he actually has a great knack for investigating someone that we know is a fraudulent individual. He's had a long history and has a great paper trail behind him, but for some reason, in true crime fashion, we're not able to catch up with him. The law enforcement isn't able to do anything about the scamming and the different frauds that he's been a part of, as well as criminal activity, might I say. So we're going to talk to one of the victims of his crimes. I hate to even say this criminal's name. I'm going to refer to him as McMahon, but he also goes by one alias of Charles Russo. Let's go ahead and introduce one of his victims, his latest victims, and that is Paul Pierce. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
And then I want to introduce Lisa McClellan to the show, Ring of Brotherhood's owner, and Gerald McClellan, G-Man's sister and guardian. How you doing tonight, Lisa?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. And now I want to introduce an amazing writer, investigative reporter, and boxing journalist, Oliver Fennel. Hi. Well, guys, it's sort of a serious subject today that we are bringing to people, but it's also one that's very much needed. It's like a warning to all of the boxing community, as well as anyone else that kind of goes through something where they want to believe in something that someone is telling them, but people need to do their due diligence, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. I want to start with Lisa. You ran into this character, McMahon. You ran into him in 2019. Basically, he started contacting you by phone. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, he made contact with me in 2019 through Ring 10. He had called Ring 10 and said he was this millionaire. He wanted to help. He loved what Ring 10 was doing, and he wanted to make a donation. And so the president of Ring 10, Matt Farrago, he met with him. After telling Matt that he was worth $500 million, he was this big real estate mogul. He met him like in a 2-star hotel in Long Island. So it kind of threw up a red flag for Matt that he was in that kind of a hotel. So Matt and I were planning, we were in the process of planning Ring 10's yearly gala at the time. So it's Peter McMahon is his real name, but he goes by Charles Russo. But Charles called me on Messenger and told me he liked what we were doing at Ring 10, and he wanted to change the Muhammad Ali Act to the Gerald McClellan Patrick Day Act. And at the time, we were having some renovations to the house. So Gerald and I were staying at a hotel. So I informed him that he called me that afternoon, and I said, hey, listen, I'll be home in a couple of days. Call me back. We can talk. So he asked me, why were we living in a hotel? Strange that he asked that, because this is how he lives his life. But
yeah,
I explained the house was being renovated. We had been there for like a week. And he said, well, if you don't mind me asking, who's paying for that? I said, I'm paying for it. And he said, well, that's what the union is for. Because he did tell me that he had started a boxing union, which I was glad to hear. And he told me he started a boxing union. Fighters like Gerald were going to be helped through the union, active fighters, everything. So anyway, he told me that the union would pay for the hotel, pay for our stay there, which we were one day from going home. And I had already paid for the hotel in advance. No, the union will take care of that. We'll give you your money back. And so I gave him the name of the hotel and the manager's number. So later on that night, I go out, I come back in, and I stopped at the front desk to see if he had actually called the manager. And the manager was I've known this lady, Sakura, since high school. So we live in a small community.
right.
And she was upset. And I'm like, what happened? And she said, this guy really offended her. He told her that they wanted to pay for the room, but the hotel had a bad reputation, so he would not leave the union's credit card number because he was afraid that the hotel would do something wrong with his credit card. And so she was very upset because the hotel had a great reputation.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to my room right away and I called him back, and he was like, yeah, they've got this bad reputation. Now he telling me something about, I've lived in this town all my life. I've never heard of this. Plus I knew the manager personally. So I said, that's not true. You shouldn't say stuff like that. He said, well, I'm going to send you a Western Union tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Well, tomorrow came and went, no Western Union. So it went on for probably about 2 weeks. His lawyer, Greg Greco, was going to meet me in Chicago and bring me $10,000. Well, that never happened. So after that never happened, I kind of called him out on it, because by that time Matt and I had started looking them up on the internet. We couldn't find anything. Everything that we did find on the internet was stuff that was just placed there. Like the real estate company. There was it was an actual Bella Copa Enterprise, but it wasn't any history of Bella Copa Enterprise. It was stuff that he had just created recently. So I called him out on it. I said, look, don't use my brother's name in any of your garbage. Immediately, Sakura, he launched an all-out attack against me. He said he found out I was having sex with Gerald, that I was scamming agencies for help for Gerald, that I was leaving Gerald home alone while I was attending all of these boxing benefits to get money for Gerald. So it went on and on and on. So it went back and forth. He made several threats. Well, I went on Facebook and I just tagged my people in boxing that I dealt with and said, hey, beware, because this guy is not who he says he is. And so after that, before the end of the night, Shakira, at least 30 people came forward on my post that was shared a couple thousand times. Oh, he scammed me. He did this. He did this. He took from me. He said this. He did this. So we kind of created a little circle where we all kept in touch. We all reported it to the feds. And he continued to attack me. So then it kind of went dormant for a little bit. A year later, I think I got an email from Oliver wanting to know what Oliver was doing a story on him or had done a story on him and wanted to know what I knew about him. So Oliver did the story and so then he resurfaced the attacks again because I was a big part of the story. One of the biggest things that he liked to say about me, Shakira, is that I've had 20 GoFundMes to raise money for Gerald, which is the farthest thing from the truth. I have one GoFundMe that I started. Actually, there's a young man in England that runs Gerald's Twitter page. He actually started the GoFundMe, and that's the only GoFundMe we have. But his biggest thing is once you call him out, he likes to attack your character. So he's suing me, he's suing Oliver, anybody that says anything. He said the reason why I'm doing this is because I asked him for money and he told me no. So this is why I'm launching an attack against him. But Shakira, you know, because we talk probably every day, when we need help, if we need help, Mauricio Suleiman and the WBC is behind us 100%. I would not have to go to Charles Russo. You know,
Correct.
2 years ago, I myself and two other guys started the Ring of Brotherhood, which we are, long story short, we started a multimedia company where we're filming fighters in need or fighters that have had actually good careers and bad careers after boxing is over. And then we also have a foundation where we are in the process of being able to help fighters. So my thing is, as well as helping Gerald, Shakira, it's important to me because I've worked with the WBC for 2 years on, there's a lot of, the WBC has a foundation where they help fighters. And a lot of the fighters aren't really in a position to do the paperwork. So for 2 years, I have about 15 fighters that every year I do their applications and walk them through the process. So I've developed a relationship with Mauricio and the WBC where they help these guys. And then we have someone that's claiming to help these fighters when really he's taking from them and he's hurting them. But I think within his own mind, I think if he tries to throw accusations that we're taking advantage of fighters, we're hurting fighters, everybody's hurting fighters, and he's the good guy, it'll take the attention away from what he's doing. But after 2 years, Shakira, pretty much the boxing scene, people in boxing are onto him. They kind of know. I mean, if you Google him, Oliver's story comes up. So it's with the latest, with Paul coming out, I think it kind of, I'm hoping and praying that he's gone away forever.
Yeah. I mean, I
So,
hope the same. I was going to get into how it is that Oliver ended up getting onto Russo and his scams and everything, because I'm trying to, like, just show how he like has tentacles, and it just, from one person to the next person to the next person,
and
and uses
Sakura, to
other individuals.
different countries. It's
Yes.
not just in the United States. It's England. It's everywhere. I think he liked to prey on people outside of the country because there's not much they could do about it. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's some jurisdictions and different laws that don't apply, unless you get into international law, and Interpol starts getting involved. Like, that's really the only organization, law enforcement globally, has to be involved. Now, Oliver, how did you meet up, or how did you end up getting with Russo, aka McMahon? I can't say his name because of my southern accent. It just is not allowing it. So I apologize. Not that he deserves me to even try to figure out his name, honestly. How did that happen for you?
Well, first of all, I think we should keep his name out there. I mean, I know you find it distasteful to mention his name, but for the sake of other people, if they look him up or they want to know the real deal about what he's doing, then he's operating in boxing as Charles Russo. So that's how we should refer to him for the sake of boxing people who are not aware of him yet. And his real name, Peter McMahon. You can look him up, McMahon, and you can see his history in other industries and his rap sheet and so on. So yeah, right. you might not like to speak those names.
Photos of him that we have that is part of your article, and really the thing is recognizing his face, because he changes his name so much. From industry to industry, that the face is what people really, if you've been in contact with him, if you've seen him before, if this face looks familiar, we need you to contact your local authorities. But go ahead and tell us about how you met him.
Yeah, so I write for Boxing News magazine in the UK, and I was working on a story completely unconnected, but I interviewed a boxer, and in the course of that interview, he said, "Oh, he's got this big fight coming up. It's going to be on a cruise ship. The first time anyone's ever done that, put a boxing event, on the open seas." And I said, "Well, that's pretty interesting." And he said, "Oh yeah, well, the guy who's doing it, Charles Russo," he said, "get in touch with him. I'm sure he'd love to have a journalist on board, do the fight coverage and so on." And I thought, well, going from Miami to the Bahamas on a cruise ship and watching boxing and hanging out with some of the legends of the sport. And I thought, well, okay, I'll have a piece of that. So I got in touch with Charles Russo, and of course he was very happy to speak to somebody who's writing for a major magazine, and he's going to get publicity now. As far as I knew, no alarm bells or anything. It's just an interesting story. And then on top of that, he's got his boxers union going on, and the sport certainly needs something like that. And he talked a big game about how he's helping people. He's helping active pros with their legal processes and their contracts, and he's helping ex-boxers who are struggling with finding work, finding homes, and so on. So I thought, okay, this is a really interesting guy. First of all, he's doing what needs to be done in the sport to benefit people, and also he's putting on a very, very interesting sounding event. So I wrote the story, and the editor of the magazine obviously agreed with me that this was interesting stuff because they published it. And I think that was December 2020. The first story ran, which was a one-page positive story about Charles Russo and his boxing union and the boxing at sea. So the day that was published and the magazine was in the shops, the editor and myself started receiving phone calls and messages about, like, why the hell have you given this guy a platform? And I was like, I don't know, like, why not? I didn't know anything about it, but there's going back probably more than a year, there were people who were aware of this, and Lisa was one of them. But just somehow I wasn't. And I felt pretty bad, but I followed up, and Lisa was one of the first people to say, well, don't feel bad about it, because that's how he gets people. He's very convincing, and you look at what he's doing, and he's chatting with people, he's associating with companies, names you recognize, and he works hard. You see him working all hours, and he's got immense hustle. And I just thought, initially when these doubts were raised, and I thought, well, okay, I'll take this on board, but this is like, I recognize the people he's working with, and I recognize the companies he's naming, and he's putting so much effort into it. This can't be a scam. But I said, oh, well, I'll look into it. And the editor said, please see if you can dig anything up, and if he's legit, then that's fine. And if he's not, maybe there's something else to write there. So at that point, I started looking into it. Lisa was one of the first people I spoke to about it. And she told me like the whole thing from her side that we've already heard, plus quite a lot of other stuff, and gave me a long list of names to speak to if I needed more information, more testimony, more evidence. And it wasn't long before it became clear that, this guy is what everyone says he is. So then it was just a case of bringing it all together for a story that was legally okay. Everything was, I can't just put out opinions or hearsay or accusations. Everything that I could publish had to be backed up. So I really had to take my time with it, and also maintain contact with Russo. And meanwhile, he obviously didn't know what I was looking into, and he was so pleased to have got in the magazine in the first place that he offered me a place in his union. And he said he wants to launch his own magazine, and he wants to make me the editor of it, and he wants to give me a seat on the Boxers Union board. So by now I was already aware of the suspicion, so I thought, okay, I'll play this cool, but it'll be interesting to get an inside look at this. So I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I said, being that the union is a non-profit, I won't take any money from you. But also, if I'm writing for Boxing News, I can't then be an editor of another boxing magazine. That's a conflict of interest. So I said, I'll come on board with you, but you can't announce it, because I didn't want my name, being associated with this guy.
Right.
So he said, okay. He said, yeah, that's fair enough. So he brought me into the board, such as it is, which was basically just a Facebook Messenger chat group in reality. The various people who had supposed board positions. And so it took about 2 or 3 months watching what was going on, speaking with people, some of who I thought were part of his operation. Either they had been duped, or they may have been part of his scam, or they were like me, they knew what was up and they were just seeing for themselves. Over the course of 2 or 3 months, I put the whole case together, and I was satisfied that he is Peter McMahon. I've established the links, I've put the history of it all together, and then eventually published that story, which was very long. I think it was like 5,000 words or something. It was like 6 pages of the magazine.
Yes.
But I
didn't know you had went like really deep cover, like you was doing undercover work as well, like with this investigative, knack that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, were you aware that you had that kind of a deep, true crime criminal knack to be able to do this stuff before this happened?
It's the first time I've done something quite like that, but I mean, obviously I know how journalism works. I know how media law works. So, it wasn't just like some angry person ranting on the internet. I had to do it properly and references and so. Yeah,
they're a lot more stringent with you guys over in the UK. Over here we got stuff called fake news.
Well, I mean, that exists everywhere, but I mean, the point is, if I had written fake news and the magazine had published lies or anything that was unsubstantiated, and if he was Charles Russo, not Peter McMahon, if he was a real, if he was who he said he was,
right,
and he
then
could
it's a liability.
He published falsities, then he would have a legal case.
Right.
So at that point, of course, I was satisfied that he was who people said he was and what he was doing. But I had to make sure that there would be no legal comeback. And so far, it hasn't, except a bit of bluster from him about how he's suing us for 25 million or 50 million or whatever it is. But, you know,
right.
still waiting for that paperwork.
Now, oh God, it's terrible. But it's thankful that you got so involved and were able to dig deep. I mean, because Paul, would you have ever been able to connect with someone like Lisa and Oliver if you had not known about these, this news outlet that had came out with these stories? Oliver's
Probably
work.
not. No way. No. I may have seen Oliver's because I do follow the boxing news. But they probably never have met Lisa, no.
Shakira,
Right.
Oliver did, when Oliver was doing his investigating, we compiled the list. And these are just the victims that we know about. In 2020 and 21, we had over 115 victims or people that had fell prey to him. And that was just the people that we knew about and we actually spoke to. And I want to say this before we move on to Paul.
Okay.
It's not just that he's preying on boxers, but he preys on anyone that he can get money from.
Yeah.
So I ran across the lady Shakira that the lady went to school with Teresa, Charles's supposedly wife. She went to school with her, and I the way I came about the name was through the guy that was actually living with Charles for a year. His girlfriend was really suspicious, and she started to snoop around when she would go to Charles to visit her boyfriend. And there was a suitcase there with a name and number that had locks on it. And she took a picture of it and got the name and number off. So I called the lady. I took the name and number. I went on social media and I actually found son. And I said, my name's Lisa McClellan. And I could tell Shakira from the pictures and that this individual with special needs. So I kept saying, but can you put me in touch with your mom? So then the next day I get a message back from this lady saying, what do you want from us? And I told her who I was. I told her what happened. I told her how I knew Peter. And she told me that her husband was dying of cancer. And he actually had died. But at the time when this happened, her husband was dying of cancer. And Charles, Teresa, and the child that they have with them came to live with them because they were without a place to stay. So she had gotten an insurance policy for $20,000. And she said Charles told her that all of his millions of dollars were locked away in the bank and he didn't have access because of COVID. And that he talked this lady out of giving him the $20,000 because her husband was the breadwinner and the $20,000 Shakira was money that he was supposed to use to pay the house payment and that. And, after her husband died, he conned her out of the money. She lost the house and she's been waiting. He told her that he was going to pay off the house and he was going to give her all this money. He took that lady's money and left them homeless. He left them homeless. I was so brokenhearted, Shakira, after
it's just like cold-hearted, just how cold-hearted and narcissistic he is that it nothing impacts him.
Listen, I'm calling people trying to help her. Like, oh my God. I mean, she was in the process of losing the home. Like within the next 30 days, they were going to be homeless. And it was heartbreaking. And this is someone that this lady took them into her home.
What?
Yes, she took them into her home. She gave them a place to stay because they were homeless with the child. And this is what he did to her. I couldn't sleep the entire night trying to think of a way to help this lady not lose her home. She was one of his victims.
Oh my, that is, I mean, not only that is heartbreaking, but it's also scary that she had this guy that is like, you know, so not the person to have in your dwelling or to sleep. You can, somebody like that, you definitely shouldn't fall asleep around. You know, it's like they are actually blessed that he left and something else worse didn't happen.
And you know, she was so humble. She didn't want to go after him. And because I tried to say, well, we should go to the police. And she said, I just want them out of my life. I just want them. I don't want to have anything to do with her. I don't want anything to do with him. I'm just glad they're out of my life. And but it's so many of those stories. It's they're everywhere.
Right. I mean, I understand that need to want to move on and just not think about it. And then you have to deal with people saying like, you know, how could you let this happen? Or how could you be so trusting? I understand that, but at the same time, you know, like Paul, he's making a difference. He doesn't want it to happen to other people. So that's why it's important to speak out. And I really appreciate, you know, the fact that someone like him, who's a boxer, who's in, you know, his career, you know, this is his career, this is his livelihood, has been willing to speak out so openly about it.
Sakura, how I met Paul was after Oliver's story ran.
Okay.
We created a group on social media, and it was a bunch of us that have been victims to Charles. And out of that group, I met Paul. And what I knew of Paul is he was a great family man, hard worker, and loved boxing. And we decided that it would be best for Paul to continue to make Charles think that he was, because he gave Paul a position on his board as well, on the union. So we decided that it was best if we kept Paul involved in the union, we can keep an eye on what Charles was doing. So in the meantime, all of Paul's sponsors, his friends, his family members, all of those people had heard about what Charles was doing. And they started thinking that Paul was a part of it, but he really wasn't a part of it. He was actually
playing along,
making Charles think that, you know, he was involved in the union. So this last year has really been difficult for Paul because he had to pretend to befriend the very man that took advantage of him. And
right.
He'll tell you the story.
Well, he went undercover as well, just like Oliver did. Eventually, he knew he had to do it. Paul, I have read your story through Oliver's article, and I just, my heart goes out to you, man. I can't believe that this happened to you in such a way and then for you to turn around and actually try to pay everyone that you knew back is
Yeah.
it just shows how much of a stand-up guy you really are.
Absolutely.
Please tell us how you ended up interacting with Russo, and tell us exactly how he was able to make you believe the unbelievable, because
I,
he's
hon- I
very good at that.
Yeah, I honestly don't know where to start here, Sakura. So I met Charles through. I was getting ready to box a two-time world champion in Scott Harrison behind closed doors.
Mhm.
Within the first lockdown. And after that, while I was training for that fight, John Luca, the owner of the British and Irish Boxing Association, he mentioned teaming up with this Charles Russo. So I was like, okay. So obviously I was getting ready to box Harrison. And this Charles adds me on Facebook and he's like, look, once you've had this fight, we'll talk about getting you on this boat. And I was like, oh, this is boss. This it's all happening for me. I'm boxing the two-time world champion. I could be boxing on a cruise ship in the Bahamas. I mean, I was on cloud nine. But I was in a bad place personally.
Right.
I was in a situation at home where there was things happening, so I was a little bit vulnerable at the time. We had COVID, so he got me at the right time. He got me perfectly at the right time. So anyway, I boxed Scott. I get stopped, but it didn't matter because Scott was a two-time world champion. I got the experience, and I was looking forward to talking to Charles. So started speaking to Charles, and he'd suckered me in. He'd give me this speech that any boxer would have wanted. There was loads of money involved. Flights were paid for, accommodation were paid for, and he was releasing these very cheap prices for cabins for
Right.
anyone that wanted to come and support me. I had, and I've always had a good sponsors. I've always had people behind me. I've always had people coming to fight. So straight away, within the first couple of months, I started spreading the news of me boxing on this cruise and what the prices were going to be. So I had a lot of people talking. I had a lot of sponsors talking. So straight away, within the first couple of months, I must have sent over. Let's say within the first 2 months, he must have had about £7,000 off me, and that was that. A couple of months after that, I was sending more money. I must have sent about £14,000 altogether, and that's in Great British pounds. And then the group that Oliver mentioned that he was in, I got the role of what did he give me the role of? It was something like European matchmaker or something silly like that. To be honest, I already had my doubts. But the only thing that kept me involved with this Charles Russo was he had that many legitimate people around him, and he put me in this group called. There was two groups. There was the cruise ship group, and there was an executive ball group. There was that many people in this group, Shakira. I never thought there was Butterbean, there was obviously Oliver, there was loads of different boxers, and we could all talk. And I've never been in something like that, so he'd suck me in. But he kept talking to me on a daily basis. He'd phone me, he'd video chat me, he would call me friend. He's very, very clever in what he does. Very, very clever. So anyway, within the first, I would say 4 months of this, straight after the fight with Harrison, within them first 4 months, I'd sent over sponsorship money. I'd sent over cabin money. I'd sent over flights. I'd sent over a lot of money. £17,000 worth of tickets, cabins. And then, cut a long story short, he gave me this. He pulled me up and he said, "Paul," he said, I need someone to prove that this is all happening over in the UK. Will I
Okay.
be able to? Would I be able to send? Would I be able to put your name forward so that these people could send money to you, and then you send it to me? And I was like, yeah, I'll do that, yeah. But then I spoke to my partner, and I was like, why would I do that? Why would that? Like, who was my proof? I sent my money over, but I sent my money direct to them. But there was a couple of weeks before that, there was alarm bells ringing for me because the first couple of thousand was sent through PayPal. And then I think it was my last £2,000 or £3,000 was sent through Western Union. And my partner said to me, Paul, she said, Western Unions, people that scam usually use that. And I was like, nah, not Charles. Charles, this is not a scam. This is real. Like, there's that many real people involved. Nah, we're not doing that. But then she was like, okay, I'll do it, but this is on you. And I was like, yeah, no, it's no bother. Like, he's real. He's real. But he gave me another alarm bell. The Western Union was in Teresa's name. And I was like, yeah, it's his partner. Like they must sort it together. But I found myself sticking up for Charles because he was speaking to me on a daily basis. Because there was that many legitimate people around him. He had me fooled. He had me feeling like I was his friend. He's that good at what he does.
Now, you did send me some pictures of how you thought that he was a big time developer. Here's some of the posts that he would post to legitimize himself. This
but
one here,
Sakura, he would say he's buying these properties to house fighters.
Yeah.
So all of the homeless and misplaced fighters are going to be living in these buildings. These buildings are owned by a big real estate company. And we spoke to the real estate company, and they actually put out a warning that someone, it's called Gray Star Investment Team. Someone was renting properties and taking money from people that they knew nothing about. So we figure it's Charles, but he's been saying that he bought these properties and this is where the fighters are going to be staying.
He's been doing this for as long as I've been speaking to him. So I was in the executive, I've been in the board, I've been in the executive board, and I've been in the cruise ship messenger as well.
And this is for the fake union that he has.
Yeah. But he's always had people in these board groups. He's always had 15 plus people.
He's had people like Roy Foreman. He's had legit people.
Right.
I can't even tell you, Shakira, how many fighters I've talked to that said, I believed it was real because Roy Foreman was there and Riddick Bowe was there and other fighters, like well-known people in the boxing industry were a part of this group.
Layla McCarter. There's another one.
The other female fighter, Mia St. John, all of those people were a part of this. But once they found out he wasn't real and there was no union, he still kept their photos. He still continued to allude to the fact that those people were still a part of his union. So when you went to the union page or you go or you see his flyers and you see actual pictures of these real fighters, you really think this stuff is true.
Okay, and to speak on that, we got Christopher Young from a real bona fide union here in Florida, who also took the time to look into this matter with Charles Russo. He says, FYI, all unions are governed by the Department of Labor. Private sector unions fall under the National Labor Relations Board here in the U.S., that we might say. And the public sector unions fall under federal labor relations authorities. Right. But even Chris found out that that is not going to actually get him arrested.
Listen,
With a
Paul
fake
and I
alias name.
Paul and I talked to Christopher for a good while. And yeah, and then there is a guy, Shakira, that has worked for 20 years named Paul Johnson, who is actually trying to put together a union. And he's just now, maybe 3 weeks ago, they went into court. But it's not been easy. Charles puts out a on his fake union page. He says he sent groceries to 307 fighters. He housed 35 homeless fighters. He got them apartments. None of that is true. And we've had people say, well, just name a couple of the people. We had Paul inside the group say, hey, shouldn't we be putting the names of these fighters out there so people know who we actually help? And his excuse is, well, these guys don't want anybody to know they're in trouble or that they need help. So he's really good at it. But Shakira, we've been helped by the WBC. We've been helped by Ring 10. And I've never been ashamed. I've never, ever. I've taken care of Gerald for 27 years, 24 hours a day. And I've never been ashamed to tell anybody we get help from Mauricio Suleiman. I've never been ashamed to tell anybody we get grocery stipends from Ring 10. I've never been ashamed of that because that's what these organizations are for. So Charles wouldn't put it out there because he knew it wasn't true.
Yeah. So he hid behind that. I want to know from Paul specifically, though, exactly how much money did you end up collecting and actually paying back to people that support you?
14,000 of my own money in Great British pounds. And then he had me send over £3,000 of Paul Doherty's money. He had me send over Stephen Ward's sponsorship money. And you know what? It hurts me because after 6 months, after straight away I'd sent my money, I started getting little niggles, and something was telling me I should never have done that. But because of my sponsors and because of the people he had around him at the time, I sent my money straight away because I could. But as soon as I sent that money, I started.
You had that gut feeling, huh?
Yeah, and this is where people started falling out with me. Even though people were calling him a con and I had the proof in front of me on Google, I couldn't. I felt as though I couldn't call him out because, as Lisa said before, if you start calling Charles out, you get blocked and deleted. So I kept saying to these two after I'd started that group, me, Oliver, Lisa, Stephen, Layla, everyone that was going against Charles or I thought was going against Charles, I put into a group. Okay. So we formed a group of people that were going against Charles or thought that he was the con.
Right. But some people don't want to hear that. They just want their money back. And they're going to fight you regardless of knowing the situation that you also were a victim.
I didn't realize that this was going to go on this long, Shakira. I really didn't. And the fact that it has, and the fact that it's over now, it feels as though I've had the world lifted off my shoulders.
Wow.
But even though I've had to pay everyone back, he's still out there taking money to today. Today, he's still advertising that cruise. It needs to stop because it's took up 2 years of my life, 2 years of Lisa's life, 2 years of Oliver's life, and everyone else that was in this group that I've tried to keep the information flowing. You know, for the last 14 months, I've had to video call this bastard and he's been calling my little girl his niece. And over the last couple of months, I could not take it anymore. And Lisa will tell you, I couldn't even video call him anymore, because even talking to him, the facial expressions, the laughing, the joking, the sitting around the pool, and
Like he wasn't doing anything wrong.
I couldn't do it anymore, Sakura. I really couldn't. The fact that he was taking all this money off me, living the life that he was, sitting by pools, calling these hotels his hotels, seeing his little girl. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got little girls of my own. I've got a 7-week-old and I've got a 4-year-old. Seeing that little girl, for me, myself, knowing how hard it is, knowing that he's using other people's money to bring that little girl up, it makes me sick. He should never have that girl in his custody. He shouldn't. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people don't realize that he's traveling with a female, like Lisa was saying, his so-called wife, and her granddaughter. So can you guys speak on that a little bit?
This little girl doesn't even go to school. I mean, I've known him for 2 years. Not one word of a school has been brought up. And
how old is she?
The fact.
She looks to be about 6 or 7. Probably about 6 or 7.
I would say 6 or 7, guessing.
No schooling.
No, I've known him for 2 years and I've never seen it in uniform. They move from hotel to hotel, and we know the hotels he's been at because my partners followed him, and we've rang the hotels. We've checked on the hotels to see that he's still there. Him and Teresa have been moving from 4 different hotels around Florida, and we know that for a fact.
Wow.
That little girl's been there. I've video called. I've recorded. I've got videos of him, of his missus, and the little girl. He's got nothing. I've got everything on video. I've got everything. I've recorded everything.
And she's growing up really gonna be knowing how to scam someone, because that's all she knows.
That's all she will know.
It's like raising another little, con artist.
It's the normal. She's gonna grow up to be just like them too.
Yeah.
I recently, Shakira, Teresa is wanted in Pennsylvania. So apparently about 2 months ago, Teresa was hospitalized for, it looked like she had staph infection. And in Charles Russo fashion, he put these pictures on social media and sent a lot of them to Paul. She had a brain tumor that exploded inward to outward. Now, if anybody know anything about nursing or cancer,
how about this brain and anatomy? You have a skull.
But he did this to gain sympathy. And probably money as well. But we knew she was hospitalized. So I called the sheriff where she's on the wanted poster to say, I know where she's at. And they said, ma'am, I spoke to an officer for about 20 minutes. She said, the charges are not extraditable, so we can't go after her. If she comes back to Pennsylvania, we'll take her into custody. She said, but why haven't you guys called the authorities about the little girl? She said, that's your ticket there. If you call the police and you want a welfare check, or if you're concerned about
Child Protective Services, for that,
she said they'll get involved right away. Well, from that point, he had left the hotel and was staying in a cabin, a trailer. He said it was their weekend getaway, which we knew he probably had scammed enough money from people, which we do have proof as well.
Yeah.
That he had gotten some PPP loans in some fighters' names. So he was collecting money from every angle, but he sent Paul pictures of a trailer he had just purchased in the woods, which he said it was a weekend home, but we knew that that was probably their new residence because we called the hotel and they were no longer there. So at the point when I got the information, he told Paul that it was closer to the hospital where Teresa was staying, and that's why they were staying there. And we didn't have a way to find out where that trailer was. Otherwise, I would have sent the police there.
Well, let's talk about the fact that he really should not even be around a young female by himself anyway. Well, probably not at all, even with this so-called wife around.
Well,
Can you tell us a little bit about that criminal past?
Oliver know more about that, but there is some sexual battery charges that he's got against him.
Okay. Wow. Oliver, I saw in some of your articles, and I want everyone, please give everyone the information for your news outlet so that they can actually go and review and find out more about Charles Russo and all of the different scams and different things, different people that you were able to find.
Well, first of all, why don't you put the links in the below the video? Obviously, because otherwise, just directing people to look up XYZ might be a bit cumbersome. But I'll send you the links and maybe.
Okay, we can definitely add that to the comments.
But yes, I've seen his rap sheet. I think he's going back quite some time, like 2010 or something. But he's got sexual battery. Most alarmingly, with reference to him living with this child, all manner of other scams. He scammed people in music, in modeling, in real estate, in recruitment, in smartphone apps, in racing. He's done romance scams as well.
Oh yes, that was our part two when we spoke to Ruth.
So
Arthur, yes,
he's all across the board, I mean, as I said, I've seen it all for myself, and that can all be looked up for people who are of a mind to do so. The problem is a lot of people are not of that mind. They take him at face value. They don't even stick his name into Google. The three of us have always made an effort to alert people who look like they're on the verge of being taken in, and sometimes they listen to us and sometimes they don't, and it's you can only do so much, but it is all out there for anyone who wants to look it up.
Sure, we've had people get upset, people that we've tried to warn about him, because we kind of keep an eye on what he's doing on social media, and when we see new names liking his pages, we kind of backdoor them, and we go to those people and we send them Oliver's articles and say, look, this is who you're dealing with. And some people still choose to deal with him. 2 years ago, Shakira, I started warning people. I've now have those same people that I've tried to warn come back and say, oh my God, Lisa, I should have listened. Or, we just the other day I tried to warn someone and they're saying, well, I didn't give him any money. Well, it's not just about money. If he's using your if he's using your legitimate organization and your name, it tie you into the scam and it makes him look legitimate. Right. So when the next person come along and they see Oliver Fennel, wow, he's a great writer for boxing news. If Oliver trusts him, then he must be okay. So that's how people get lured into him. But
also for a while, Lisa, you didn't mention how he was trying to use Gerald, your brother McClellan, and yourself as a way to get people involved too.
Yes, he was gonna use Gerald's name to change the Ali Act to the McClellan Day Act.
But he had your information. He had G-Man's picture and everything on his website, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
And then this is what I don't get, Shakira. On his website, going back to 2 years ago, all the fallouts are listed when other people have said, hey, you took money from me. All of those fights, those comments are still listed on his page. So people, if the information is there to see, if I went to someone's page and he's had 50 fallouts in the last year and people making accusations of him stealing money, I wouldn't send this man any money. People are not reading into this. People are not paying attention. You know what I'm saying? So when he's had public fights on social media with people where people have called him out and they still choose to deal with him.
Well, we're going to wrap up pretty soon. We're going to wrap up pretty soon, but I wanted to make sure that people understand that these events, because that's another thing I feel like, how can people believe he's going to have an event over in the US, Paul, not you in the UK, when so many of these events do not occur? Practically, I believe none of them occurred.
I think there's been 47 events to date that never happened.
Is that right, Oliver?
Something like that. It was something like 41 at the time of me wrapping up everything, and he's tried to do some more since. Well, I say tried to do it, obviously.
Right. So this should have a big line through it. Does not exist. This is a fake cruise event that he continues to push. During COVID, he was using, oh, well, cruise lines are not, I'm not able to give you your money back, and I can't tell you a date because we don't know when the cruise ship lines will be able to, reopen and start operating again. So he was able to really use COVID to his benefit in many ways.
And not only, Shakira, is he a crook, a thief, he's also a liar because he's got a lot of logos on the union page. Domino's, the WBC.
American Airlines.
I've had personal conversations with Mauricio Suleiman, and I should have screenshot them so you could put them up, where I informed Mauricio that he was using the WBC's logo. And I have conversations with me giving Mauricio all the information that I knew of to go to the WBC's attorneys to go after him. But he says Mauricio offered him a job. He said he just had a 4-hour conversation with Mauricio Suleiman. Mauricio was going to give the union some belts. All that stuff is a lie. It's not true. He has no contact with the WBC. All those logos are logos. Listen, I'm in the process now, Shakira, of setting up our website for the Ring of Brotherhood. When, like with Mauricio, we have his logo on our website. We had to get written permission from every person that we placed their logo on our website. He just take those logos and plaster them on his website and say, these are my sponsors. These are people. Paul, did he say he was working with Walmart, or Walmart was renting their property from him? If this stuff sounds too good to be true, chances are it is.
That's what I was going to get to, Lisa. You're absolutely right. And I think that's one reason why some people choose not to believe him, because they want it to be true. What he's saying to them, they want it to be true so much, and it's such a dream for them. And he's preying on people's vulnerabilities of this, type of dream that they have.
Listen,
and I think that's why they don't want to believe it when the evidence is right there in front of them.
Shakira, he promised Angel Manfredi he was going to buy him a gym. He promised Junior Jones he was going to give him a job. These guys, their careers are over. and
Yeah.
they need money and they need something to do. So he's taking advantage of these vulnerable guys. He takes advantage of them and he's selling them a dream. And it's just to use their names, to have the names attached to what he's doing. But he's actually hurting these guys.
Wow. It's such a shame. I just really want people to listen and be aware, you know, of things that just can't be true. A cruise ship boxing event. Who's the commissioner that's going, what governing body commissioner, boxing commission is going to be able to sanction this? The whole you know, using logos from different sanctioning bodies like WBC and WBA, and
he called them the Big Five.
Yes,
the Big Five.
I mean, why would they need him to promote their events or anything they have to do with it when they have established media and a huge following already?
Yeah,
it's little things like that you want people to start catching on to.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put something out there as well.
Sure.
Another thing that he started doing a while back was this boxing at sea. It's starting to drift away. Pardon the pun. He's starting to add a lot of boxing promoters. Now, I think if you're a boxing promoter and you're watching this, or if you catch up on this, you need to put on Facebook that your matchmaker or the matchmakers involved in doing your show, you need to put their name to these fights that you need, because he copies and pastes. Now, if you go onto any of his status lately, he copies and pastes. Let's say, Shakira, you're putting a boxing show on and you need 135 pounds, 1 fight, 1 win, 140 pounds, 2 fight, 2 wins. He's copy and pasting your fight list, and he's putting it out there as if he's helping these promoters. And Oliver will tell you, Lisa will tell you, he advertises for like top rank promotions. He tries this. He does the money team the money team. If he can copy and paste a list of fights that these big promoters need, it makes him look better. So therefore, he's able to have all of these fighters see that this guy can help him get on these bills. He's creating another platform of boxers to message him, and the more contacts for him. We need to get promoters to make sure that they put on these advertisements that there is only this matchmaker doing this fight. So if you're a matchmaker out there, put on your advertisements that there is only one matchmaker, and that's whatever his name is or whatever her name is. And let's stop Charles advertising these fights, because he's creating.
He take credit for all of it.
Yeah. And if you tell him,
I just so happened, Shakira, to be. I've had several meetings with Mayweather's operations manager, Peter Lopes. He's a good friend of my partner, who's a pastor. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I mentioned to Peter that Charles was advertising that he was working for the money team. They'd never even heard of him before.
Not at all.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. I'm sure that we're gonna have to continue and persevere to get this information out here, guys. So I definitely want to invite all three of you guys back again for probably part 5 or 6.
Hopefully that'll be, we can celebrate him going to jail.
That would be an amazing feat. Guys, everybody that's listening, please, if you've come into contact with Charles Russo, or whom he calls Peter himself, his real name Peter, I guess he's from the Tennessee area. Tennessee is his home state.
No, he's from Brooklyn, but he's got his previous conviction. That picture there, that's Tennessee.
Okay, so we need you to definitely contact your local authorities as well as the authorities in the area in which he has last been known to reside. And that is going to be Orange County Sheriff or Orange County Police Officer Williams. And we have the contact number here at the bottom for everyone to be able to contact, because we need to know what they need to know. The authorities need to know about every case and all the different money that has been taken from people. But as Lisa said, not just money, but the manipulation and the other different con artistry that he has done and continues to try to perpetrate. The more people that know him, the more people that can make others aware, hey, this isn't who you need to be dealing with. Guys, did you have any last minute final words for us?
No,
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Go on,
Okay.
Lisa.
Go ahead.
Please
Oh,
do.
I just wanted to say thanks again, Shakira, for helping us put this out here. And our hope collectively is just to make people aware that he is not who he says he is. We don't have a beef with Charles. We want him to stop hurting these fighters. And I told him 2 years ago, if you are not who you say you are, I will help take you down. And I'm going to stand true to that until I see him in jail. These guys are already hurting, Shakira, and they need our help, not
somebody praying on them.
take advantage of them. So thank you for helping us keep the word out. Share this video. Hopefully we can spread it so people in the boxing industry will know. We can only put the word out there to try to help protect people. We can't make people listen to the warning, but just watch the video, read the stories, and see for yourself if you want to continue to do business with this kind of person. Even if 0% of what we say is true about him, because of all the accusations coming from so many places, you should just be careful about who you're working with.
Yes, always do your due diligence and just even do a simple Google search. And sometimes you're surprised at what might come up from someone that seems like they're really well put together. Oliver, you had something?
Yeah, just on that note, I mean, there'll be people who don't know who we are, and they might have heard from Charles Russo first, and he's got his excuses, his reasons, the things he says about us as justification for what we're saying. So, if you want to take his word for it, by all means. But just a few things to run through a checklist. If you have, well, why does this union? You can't find it registered anywhere as a union, as a company, as a non-profit, as a charity. None of the databases will bring it up. Same with his Bellacopia Enterprises real estate company. It's got a Facebook page with like 270 followers, but it's supposedly got Walmart and American Airlines as its clients. You won't find any record of Charles Russo in boxing prior to 2019. He talks about his grandfather and his father having properties that hosted big fight events. You can't find them. Like anything that he puts up there is something that he's achieved, he's doing, he's done, or people he's working with. Just look them up for yourself, and you will find not very much evidence of that being true. So, you don't have to take our word for it, but look it up yourself.
Absolutely. That's 100% accurate. Don't take our words for it. Just start doing the digging yourself. Yeah. It doesn't take but a simple search, and it'll start revealing itself at this point. Now, Paul, I'm going to leave you with the lasting words, because in the beginning, I started out by saying, it's not just a financial burden or a financial hit that you took, but it's the emotional too, and the fallout, and everyone else around you that now is not on board, maybe as supportive as they once were. So please, you take us out and let us, just hear your final thoughts.
So I just want to say sorry to everybody that, I mean, I shouldn't really say sorry. I mean, it's hard to put what I want to say into words. after 6 months of sending all of this money, and all my sponsors, all the people that backed me, all the people that sent money over, and I couldn't say anything because I didn't know who I could trust. I didn't know. I didn't want anything to get out. I didn't want anything to get back to Charles, Peter, whatever you want to call him. So I've been undercover for nearly 2 years now, and I just want to apologise to everybody for keeping it to myself, for not saying anything to anybody, for not trusting the people that back me, and I just want to apologise for leaving it so long, just to come out with the truth. I mean, obviously I've sent over a lot of money and I've not said anything to anyone apart from the people that was in the group, me, Oliver, Lisa, I'm not going to mention everybody, but the other people. I mean, he's dragged this on too long, and I think I left it too long. But now I've come out. Now he started deleting everything. So I'm hoping that with the information I've got, I mean, if anyone wants to add me, I can send over every bit of proof, whether it's been the money transactions, just to prove how much I've sent. I've got messages and emails to show that he had no intention of paying anything back. I pay flights for me and my family to get over to these supposed shows that I was boxing on. I've got every bit of proof. After the 6 months I started getting niggles, I kept everything. So if anyone's in talks with Charles, feel free to message me. Feel free to call me on Messenger. I will prove everything to you. Everything. And I will not stop until he's been caught or someone's found him.
Okay. Oh, definitely. You went beyond and did so much more than a lot of these victims are willing to do. And you shouldn't hold your head low at all, because this is something that can happen to anyone.
Yes.
It's something that, you know, people want to make it seem like it can't happen or they're surprised it happens, but it's really easy to fall prey to someone that is an actual professional and been doing this for so many years, like someone of this criminal background.
He's very good at what he does. Very good.
Sakura, Oliver and I will vouch for Paul being a stand-up guy.
Yes.
To any of his sponsors or anybody who think he was a part of the scam. I speak to Paul every day and probably have for the last year and a half, and I see nothing but an honorable father and a hard working. He works 16, 17 hours a day. He takes great care of his family, and he loves boxing. And I'll stand up for him any day of the week. Any day of the week.
And I've had 3 fights in the last, I would say, 6-7 months, and I've not had one sponsor message me back. I've not had one sponsor get in touch. I've not had one sponsor that I had, and I've had a lot, Shakira. I've had a lot of backing. I really have, and I've had a lot of money given to me for various things, whether it's been to get off the island I live on, whether it's been for flights, whether it's been for tickets, kit, anything. Over the last 3 fights, I've not had one penny, not even a text back. So Charles Russo,
well, it is a backlash for his criminal behavior that you are now having to deal with.
Yeah.
And this is the prolonging effects I was talking about.
Yeah. So anybody out there that is giving in to Charles Russo, stop it now before you end up with nothing. Because I've ended up with nothing. I've got a fight in 3 weeks, and then I've been promised a WBF world title in August. I should have all the backing that I've had through all my career, and I'm going into a world title fight in August with nothing. But I'll get there and I'll do it myself because I can. But it's always nice to have that backing and them ticket sales. But you know, this man's ruined everything for me. He's not ruined it to the way I can't fight for this world title, but he's ruined the support for me. So I just like everybody just to stop talking to him and stop sending him money, because
Well,
it's just a,
I, for one, would like for you to come back because that is an amazing path that you finally get in the fight for this world championship. And we want to have you back on a positive note so that people can know you as a boxer and know what you stand for in that ring. But for today, our topic was to make sure that people know this criminal, and if they can, please contact any law enforcement agency that is close to you. But also, we provided the number for his last known location of where he's been staying in Florida. That's the Orange County Police Department, and it's the Officer Williams. And we have the phone number provided below. Here is a picture of who did we want to call him? Russo.
The con man.
Right, the con artist.
Man.
Yes. Please contact your authorities if you had any dealings with him. And if you are still in contact with him and he's promising the world, do not believe him. Do not give him any money, and definitely don't send anything Western Union. Do not give him any legitimacy in what he is doing, because it is so painful and hurtful for other people. Oliver, Paul, Lisa, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the show today. And I'm definitely going to be inviting you guys back. Hopefully, as Lisa said, once we've catched a con artist. Thank you so much for everybody joining us tonight. And we'll see you next week on After Dark series. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Shakira. Thank you.
Thank you, Shakira.
Yeah.
Thank you. And God bless you all.
Yeah,
Hopefully
God bless you too. Thank you.
All right.
Welcome to the house, the one they talking about. Word of mouth, the boxing playhouse, without a doubt. All the latest and greatest boxing news, that's what it's all about.